Hello everyone, welcome to third lecture of the Python series for BSc IT Python programming. So let's start. Before we go ahead with the third lecture, I have some points for correction. So in the last lecture, we went over the topic of how to write comments in Python. So I said that we have to use double forward slash, but actually there is a bit correction here. The correction is instead of double slash, we have to use hash in Python. So that is the major correction. And how to use single line comments, and my sincere apologies for the mistake, and I assure you that this mistake will not happen in the next lectures. So moving forward to our today's lecture for conditional statements, looping, and control statements. So let's get started. So first we have is conditional statement. So why do we need a conditional statement? Because sometimes we may want to change the flow of the program execution based on certain values. So you want to give a certain discount if you have sales over, suppose, $100 or something. So in that situation, you can use a conditional statement. Next is, so yeah, we did went over the second point that it helps us to change the execution flow. Uh, But another thing is that not only we can change the flow, but also we can skip some statements. So examples of the conditional statements would be if else, and nested if else. Don't worry if you don't get what these statements are, because further we have slides on each of these conditional statements. So let's move ahead. First, we have our if statement. So what I've done here is I have taken a scenario and then given the example of how to use the if statement. So the scenario we have here is that you want to apply a discount only when a customer has spent more than $50. So in this case, the if statement can help us in evaluating the condition and to apply the discount. So first we have, if the value of sales is greater than 50, then only apply the discount. So what this will do is this will evaluate the amount of sales and check if the sales is greater than 50. If it is, then it will allow us to apply the discount. Otherwise, we would not have any discount. So here you can see this is a keyword actually, pass. So why did I use pass here is because firstly I did not have any statements to write here. So just to give a placeholder for a statement, you can use pass. So what Python will do is it will not perform any operation, and yet you can write this conditional statement in a legal way. Further, we have if else statement. So what the scenario here is, if you want to evaluate a certain statement when a condition goes false, then you have else statement to handle that case. So in the earlier, when we compare if else to if, what happens here is when the condition was false in the if, we had no construct to handle. It would just go to the next statement after if. But what if we want to handle the false condition also? So that's why we are having if. So let me go over the scenario. Here we want to handle the condition of false condition when the sales is not greater than 50. So here after the if statement become false, it will come directly to else. And here, in order to increase our sales, we can show recommendations. So that can be done when the condition is false. Moving further to our nested if else, we have, so what happens in nested if else is sometimes the, not sometimes, but most of the times, the sales might be in a given range. So for example, the number of sales are less in the less than 50 and more in greater than 50, so we can apply discount in the range of $50 to $100 sales. So in that case, you want multiple conditional statements. So how do we do that? So in that case, we use the nested if else. So for using nested if else, the construct would be first we write the if, then the condition, and then the statement. Next, we further write elif, and then again the condition. So this is the second condition. And in order to end the ladder of these conditions, we will have else. So this is the whole construct for nested if else. Don't worry too much. This is quite easy when you start applying these concepts in your practical sessions. So it will be straightforward, and in no time you'll be using nested if else as a pro. Uh, let's go ahead to looping now. So up till now, what we have observed is we would just evaluate a single condition, and if based on whether the condition is true or false, we would execute statement and then move forward. But what if we want to re-execute some steps if the condition, not the condition, but if we want to execute certain steps over a number of times and stop when a certain condition is reached. So in that case, we have our loop. So what do we have here on our slide is, if we want to execute a given statement based on a condition or either based on number of items, loops can be of great use. Examples of loop can be for, while, and nested loop. So moving to our for loop, we have here, you want to iterate over a number of items in the shopping and calculate the cost. It should be number of items in the shopping cart and calculate the cost. So you have to go over each item. In that case, for loop can be used to loop until the cost of all items are added. So here I have written a small piece of code to go over each item in the bag and just to total up the price of your shopping cart. So the construct for loop looks like, first we will have for keyword, and then we will have a placeholder to get the value from the bag, and in is a membership operator, and then we will have a I would say mm, any object here which will contain multiple items inside. So this can be a custom object here. As you can see, it is bag, or maybe it can be a list or a dictionary. So we'll go into further detail in the data structures, but we can have any kind of data structure here or any iterator here. So this is a basic construct for and then you have to provide colon to mark the beginning of for, because in Python we don't have any brackets to limit the scope of execution. So in that case, we have to use colon and then tab or spaces, whichever works for you. So this loop will go until there are no more items left in the bag. So when the last item comes in, we will add the price to the total sum, and when there are no items left, we will exit this loop. Further, we have for loop. Sorry, further we have while loop. In for loop, we observe that at the entry, we do not evaluate any condition. We just get the object from our data structure and perform operations on it. And only when going to the next loop, we evaluate the condition. But here, while is an entry control loop. So first, while entering into while, we check a condition. The condition here is, sorry, first I'll go over the scenario. The scenario is, you have a shelf of products in warehouse and you want to move them to other shelf. Here we will continue the task until there are no more products to move. Note we are moving the products in the system and later they'll be moved physically. Yes, so this is just for example purpose. And the loop here says that while the len of shelf is greater than 0. So with this condition, what I'm checking is that there are some products to be moved. So here we move the products to other shelf and then we pass. Note we will exit the moment the len of shelf is 0. So entry control, so in while loop, even before starting the first loop, we check the condition, and also when we start the second loop, we will check the condition. So that's why while loop is called an entry control loop. Next, further we have nested loop. So by nested loop, I mean that there will be two loops, one inside the other. So first point says here that nested loop helps you to perform multiple steps for a given iteration inside a loop. Example, we want to enter the properties of all the products on shelf P on the online portal. So here, what I want is for every product, I want to enter the property into database. So first, what I do is I will grab the product using for first product from the shelf using for loop, and for each product, I will gather the property. So for maybe it would be better to write here property. So we enter the property to database and then move to next product, which means that I'll go back to this loop and grab next product. And for all the properties, I will iterate over them and enter them into database. So this is how a nested loop would look like. Further, we have terminating loops. So, yes, the example is correct. I was not sure that whether the example is correct or not, but it's correct. So let's get started with terminating loops. So you are only counting unique products and you want to exit when the product is repeated because you know that the sequence of products will be repeated from here on. So for example, what this statement says is that you arrange your products in a given way, suppose ranging from 1 to 10, and if the product 1 comes again, you know that okay, this sequence is going to be repeated from here onwards. So what do you want is you want to stop when you have this uh, sequence repeating and you want to perform some other task. So what we can do here is you can use a break statement. So here we will get the product from the statement, sorry, we will get the product from the shelf and then we will check if the product is there in the dictionary. If it is not there in the dictionary, we will add it to dictionary as one with quantity 1, and if it is there in the dictionary, then we will break. So what break will do is it will immediately exit from the loop. Remember, it will immediately exit from the um, innermost loop and not the innermost condition. So it is not dependent on the condition, it is dependent on the innermost loop. So it will break from for and it will move ahead. So maybe I can add a little note here. Note break will exit from the innermost loop and is independent of the conditional statement. Yes. Lastly, we have skipping conditions. So suppose if you do not want to apply a discount for a particular product, then we can use continue statement to skip that condition. So for example, we are going over our products on the shelf and we are giving 10% discount for every product. Maybe this should be a bag. This would make sense and not the shelf. Yeah. So for every product in the bag, we are giving 10% discounts. I know this might sound a bit more generous for a store to give for every product 10% discount, but just a case to consider for presentation and learning purpose. So for every product, we are giving 10% discount, and if the product is Zara white shirt, we are not giving discount. So this is a condition statement, and here we will have continue. So what will happen is we will not execute any statement, and when we encounter continue, we will directly go to the next loop. So after continue, we will not even evaluate else, and we will go to the next product in the bag. So that is the main motto behind continue, which is to skip the condition and move on to next iteration. I think that's it from my side. If you have any questions or query, feel free to drop them in the comment section, and please do like the video. Also, please provide any feedback or suggestions if you have any. Once again, thank you so much and have a nice one.